Welcome to the Law School Insider, where we have conversations with students, lawyers, and employers.
Succeeding in law school is something that you must prepare for, not only before you begin, but throughout your law school journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Lewis, and I will draw from my over 20 years of experience in the college admission field, as well as bring forth the experiences of others as we delve deeper into the issues. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Law School Insider. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Lewis. I'm so excited to be able to have you back again this week. This week, we have Dr. Paul Zelenski, who is the Associate Dean for Enrollment and Student Services at Western Michigan University, joining us this week. And this week, we're going to be talking about something different, something that we haven't talked about in the past. We're talking about leadership. And you might think to yourself, what does this have to do with law school? And that's what we're going to talk about, because we see lawyers as leaders, and something that I have seen for a very long time as in my interactions with law students and with lawyers. And I know here at Western Michigan University, they have been working really hard to be able to push to teach students to gain some of the skills that they need to be lawyers. So, Dean Zelenski, thanks so much for joining us this week.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure to have you here this week. It is, as I said, very important that we talk about leadership, because being a leader in this profession is very important. But I guess and I know this, and I know you know this, but let's talk to everyone that is listening. For those of you that don't know why this is important, why is it important for a lawyer to gain these leadership skills as they're going through their law school experience?
Well, I think the first thing to acknowledge is that many law students come to the law school setting with great leadership ability to begin with. And what happens is that once they start their law school training, our goal is to try to get them to understand the aspects of the law as it relates to leadership. As you mentioned earlier, lawyers are leaders, but almost by definition. Even if you're going to be a backroom lawyer somewhere, our society puts an expectation, I think, on all attorneys that you will have some skills that implies that you are a leader among others. And so we take that very seriously, obviously. And when we decided to get together and figure out a way that we could enhance our curriculum, particularly in the leadership development area, we look at it from a multidimensional perspective so that we can acknowledge those who come to us with great leadership skills, but then also acknowledge that there are a number of folks who don't. And that is not, I think, acceptable for a law school graduate in this day and age. And I also believe, I have a bias, that there are a lot of pretenders out there. People have great titles, have long lists of responsibilities on their positions that they hold, but are they truly leaders? Are they managing? Are they moving people in directions they've never been before? And so I think there is a lot to be done within legal education to enhance leadership training, even those who already come to us with great skills.
Well, I think that's really important to put out there. And one of the things that I guess that I want to ask you is, I know that you teach a course, and I think it's called Leadership Development for Lawyers 1. And in that course, you talk about a lot of some of the basics about leadership, but also helping students to better understand this. Are you finding that in the students that you are interacting with, and maybe even over the years that you have been working in legal education, are there deficiencies that students are bringing to the table that across the board they need to work on to be able to get to that point that you're talking about?
Well, thanks for mentioning the course. Very creative title. One of the things that we try to emphasize in the course is to help emerging lawyers to create frameworks to help them in their thinking. When you're training to become an attorney, people come to you in a variety of different capacities, whether it be in a criminal setting, civil setting, in an organizational government kind of a situation. And they're coming to you with some issues that they would like some help resolving. And they're not asking for a blueprint. They're asking for your ability to think about putting different pieces together that may not appear to be needed to be put together. And so what we do in the course, particularly in the very first course, is to spend some time talking about developing your own working frameworks. Like, for example, throughout my career, I've had 3 or 4 frameworks that just dazzle around in my head as I'm confronted with things that need some sense of organization and direction and things of that nature. What I find in that course, when I introduce that concept of defining your frameworks, doesn't have to be the ones that we cover in class particularly, but here are some examples that you could look at, that many of the law students haven't thought about leadership that way. that they've kind of thought about it in what I would call the old school way about, whether you have charisma or not, or you have a certain set of skills, can you run an effective meeting, which is all really important of being a good leader. But it's not the thing that sets you apart. It's not the skill set as a leader that people will turn to you when they're trying to resolve issues, good or bad. And typically, people don't go to attorneys when they're having a great day. They're going to attorneys because they're trying to figure something out and need that person's knowledge and skills to help them sort it out. And then, the other part of this that we talk about a decent amount in class is what the profession is requiring of its graduates nowadays. When I talk with employers and others around the country, one of the things that constantly comes up, there actually are two things. One is leadership abilities. Okay. The second thing is program planning. So what does that mean in the legal setting? It means to be able to take all the knowledge that you're gathering in this very intense academic environment, all the skills you're going to be developing, and then put on top of that your leadership skills to put you in a position to be an effective attorney or community leader or whatever you ultimately will do with your degree.
Now, some of you might be really excited about what Dean Zelenski is saying, and I hope that you are, because going into the law is exciting in itself, but then also being able to see that future for yourself and being able to see that future that puts you in that leadership role is also important. Now, Dean Zelenski, if someone has been inspired, if someone is saying to themselves, whoa, this sounds really cool, I think that I truly want to work on my own leadership skills. If they're not in law school yet, are there certain things that they should be thinking about, they should be doing right now, today, that would help to set them on the right path to starting law school and beyond and that leadership path?
Yeah, I think the first thing is get in the arena. You have to put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to exercise your leadership abilities or lack thereof. And then you could be honest with yourself about what your strengths and weaknesses are. And you look for symptoms within organizations that you might be a part of currently, whether it be if you're in the undergraduate level right now or in some work setting where you're perhaps supervising a few people or a lot of people. And you start to develop a kind of a reputation of what kind of leader you are. And so one of the things we spend a decent amount of time talking about in the class is reputation and ethics. And that dovetails nicely into other things related to the law. There's a lot of work being done with professionalism and ethics right now across the country and in many law schools and with the American Bar Association. So I think the first piece of advice to a person who's thinking about coming to law school is to put yourself in the arena and then begin to look at, whether it be through your readings or put yourself in a context that will enable you to try on different things relative to your leadership abilities. If you're not happy with how your staff meetings are going that you're running, well, why is that? If you're in a student organization, you're a student organization leader, and suddenly the members are leaving, well, why is that? Is it something about you as the leader, or is there something the way the organization is structured? What is it and to be more inquisitive about what is happening around you. One of the things we spent a decent amount of time talking about in the class that differentiates the leader from the manager is the ability to have foresight, to be able to see around the corner where no one else can see. And then you become, as the leader, the interpreter of what might be around the corner. And that's when you get into the whole idea of making your vision statements and mission statements and goals and objectives and things of that nature that follow after. But it's the ability to see and have that foresight, I think, is really where people are lacking to a great degree. And that is something you could work on constantly. You have to constantly work on that, whether it be at the undergraduate level in an organization setting or just as a, kind of a person that's just thinking about coming to law school.
Well, that's great. It makes me excited about law school and being able to go to law school as well. And one of the things that I want to go into a little bit more in depth now, we talked about the course, and I know there's a leadership development for lawyers too, that is an advanced course. But beyond that, I know that just last fall, Western Michigan University Cooley Law School started a brand new initiative called the Leaders Academy. And I want to talk a little bit about that and have you talk a little bit about the genesis of this, but also what some of the goals are for this program and what you're finding so far.
Thanks for asking that question, Chris, because we're really excited about this new Leaders Academy, and it's a long time coming, I'll tell you that. This has been on our list for a long period of time, but like everything else, sometimes your priorities get shuffled around a little bit and you keep putting it down on the list. But this past year, we made a concerted effort here at the law school to get this idea of putting together a series of experiences for people and in essence credential them in a way to be able to articulate not only their abilities to themselves, but to the public that I have spent a considerable amount of time thinking about leadership, putting myself in leadership positions and creating opportunities where I can exercise my leadership in a very intentional way. And what we've done with the program, and these are popping up all over the country. Some of the law schools have had a program for quite some time. We've done a lot of in the name of leadership development over the course of the years. We've got special awards, and we have leadership training for our student organizations, things of that nature. But what the Academy now does, it just takes it to another level. And it's for those who want to really focus in on some areas where they really need to improve. And so what we've done, we've organized it in 3 different parts, and people can start early on in the process. And that first is kind of emerge and trying to get themselves into a position where they see themselves as an emerging leader within their new role of becoming an attorney. And then the second part of it is beginning to have them engage, actually get hands-on experience where they are able to try on some of the things that they're learning perhaps in the class or things that they've done in the past that they've been successful doing or unsuccessful and wanted to switch it up. And then finally, the last part of the trifecta, if you will, is called LEAD. And what we're trying to do there is for folks to be encouraged to go out and put yourself out there and try to exercise those things that you've learned both in the Academy and in your previous leadership experiences. And we're in year 1 of this, as you've mentioned. And so we had great turnout. We have a number of students that are currently in the Academy. We have students that are enrolled in the class, the first class. The second class will be offered in the fall semester. So we're off and running, and we're really excited about it. I think it'll be a value added for graduates. One of the things we constantly talk to our students about is how you're going to set yourself apart from the pack. And most law schools are teaching very similar things, particularly in the first into the second year, using, in many cases, the same textbooks. And so what will differentiate you from the rest of the group? And we see the Leaders Academy just one more thing that you can work toward to separate yourself from the pack.
I think that's really important because being able to separate yourself, we've heard that before. If for any of you that have been listening for some time now, almost every episode that we put out there, we talk about that this journey that you are on is a individual one. And because of that, you do have to be able to find for yourself what is going to be helpful for you to be able to find that success, not only in law school, but also find success in your career. So you have to be able to set yourself apart, and you have to be able to go through that process. Finding your own leadership style, finding your own leadership is part of that journey, and it is an important one. So this sounds very exciting. I'm really excited that you were able to join us today and to share this with us. I will definitely put some links in the notes today for people to be able to see what this Leaders Academy is all about and be able to share with others so that they can be able to see what this is all about as well. So Dean Zelenski, thanks so much for being with us today, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Well, that was another great guest this week on the Law School Insider. If you have an interest in being a guest on the show, drop me an email at lawschoolinsider@Cooley, COOLEY.edu. And thank you all for listening today. And remember, you have the ability and right to take control of your law school's success. I hope you'll continue listening, creating a plan for success that will prepare you to achieve the dreams that you have set for yourself. Talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. You're on your way to being a law school insider. Please subscribe to stay connected and come back again next time as we speak to more students, lawyers, and employers.